And welcome back to coverage here at GP Hartford. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Melissa DeTora, and we are ready for round number 4. We're playing Modern here in Hartford. We've got Reid Duke, number 2 in the world currently, on his signature deck, Jund. He's playing against Storm in the hands of Paul Muller, and the Storm deck these days, Melissa, involves some, well, I don't know how to put it, not mana creatures, but you know, the ones that make your spells cheaper, and of course, Gifts Ungiven is part of the package as well.
Yeah, Gifts Ungiven has added a lot to the Storm deck. I guess Baral, Chief of Compliance, is really the card that kind of pushed this deck into a higher tier when Aether Revolt came out, because now you had even more creatures to make your spells cheaper, and just being able to play that Gifts Ungiven turn 3 consistently just gave the deck a lot more power. Another card was Opt from Ixalan. It's just a more consistent card filtering spell, because now you can play Sleight of Hand, Serum Visions, and Opt. And Paul's playing 4 copies of Sleight and Serum Visions and 3 copies of Opt, so he has just a lot of ways to filter through his draws. Win condition, of course, is Grape Shot. Empty the Warrens in the sideboard.
Not uncommon to see that come in against Jund. They do have answers, though. They tend to be more on the spot removal plan.
Yeah, also Maelstrom Pulse is a pretty weak card against Storm. But you probably have to keep it in if you expect your opponent is going to bring in Empty the Warrens.
That's right. Else, you could just lose to it. Happens pretty easily. Even a not super exciting Empty the Warrens, not one where they fully go off, is still quite powerful.
All right, so here's something interesting. It looks like Paul doesn't have a second land.
So he's going to try to opt into one
here?
Right,
he played a turn 1 hand filtering spell and a turn 2 hand filtering spell. He has a land now, though.
And he's got Sleight of Hand.
Yeah, he's just finding what he needs right now, setting up his hand to go off in one big turn.
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of interesting, but because of course the hand disruption spells still count against the Storm deck. It's still a 1-for-1, it reduces the Storm deck on resources, but they are so cantrip heavy that they often can just rebuild and find their pieces, but they're just down a card in the transaction.
And being down a card is actually super important.
It really is. They do need critical mass of combo style pieces. Meanwhile, Tarmogoyf on the battlefield now for Reid Duke. And it looks like it's going to be a 3-4 at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like I was incorrect that he missed a land. Reid just had a Thought Seize. Staring at the deck list, I missed what was going on turn 1. But yep, Tarmogoyf looks like it's a 3-4. We have instant sorcery land.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. And that's a fine little clock, though. Reid is going to need a little more firepower than that if he's going to close the door on Storm, and every turn counts. Every single turn that the Storm player can manufacture is a better chance for them to set the pieces up to actually go off. And we see here a Scavenging Ooze from Reid Duke. Doesn't apply a ton of pressure directly, but it can be annoying.
Yeah, it's actually really important here because a lot of times Storm goes off with Past in Flames.
That's
and
right.
Being able to just remove one ritual from their graveyard will help a lot. So Reid has the untapped mana threatening to remove the key card that Paul needs after he casts a Past in Flames.
And we see an interesting play here from Paul, Melissa. He's actually going to fire off Desperate Ritual so that he can cast Gifts Ungiven. He had to burn a ritual just to be able to put Gifts Ungiven on the stack, but he's going to do so.
Yeah, you see Ritual into Gifts Ungiven a lot.
Yeah. And you can see he's gotten 2 more rituals plus a Manamorphose, and a Noxious Revival is that card in the middle. That gives him redundancy here to be able to get any of the cards that are put into the graveyard back on top of the library and ultimately draw them.
Right, and one thing that Reid can do here is he can put the Past in Flames in the graveyard and...
I don't think he actually
did not get a Past in Flames. Okay.
It's Pyretic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, Manamorphose, and Noxious Revival. So Paul Muller, perhaps with Past in Flames already accessible, or maybe he figures he doesn't need it.
Maybe he doesn't need it, right.
Yeah, or it doesn't matter anymore because of the ooze. Still, Usually they need it. Reid's at 15. It's pretty tough to chain together enough spells without doing something abusive. He may just have it in his hand, though.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to win without Pass in Flames with so few cards in hand. One interesting play with Noxious Revival is usually you want to cast Noxious Revival so you can draw that card for your draw step, and you can cast it during your upkeep to add to your storm count and still get the card anyway.
Yeah, but Reid Duke with Scavenging Ooze available. Interesting little dance that they're doing here. You see Reid does not crack his Bloodstained Mire on end step. He wanted to keep the activation for Scavenging Ooze available the entire time. If you sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire, it's in the graveyard while that ability's on the stack, and Paul could use Noxious Revival to get something back. And this way, Reid, while he doesn't get to exile a card, he maintains the ability to respond to cards like Noxious Revival.
Yep, definitely smart play from Reid by not sacking that land. Reid definitely knows how to play this deck. He knows his matchups really well.
Might be the best Jund player in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know who else would be better.
He's certainly my pack one, pick one for that, but maybe there's somebody else. I don't know.
I would also put a play design member piloting the black-green no Bloodbraid Elf deck.
Oh, wait, who?
Maybe Paul Cheon, maybe Michael Majors.
You're just going to put one of them up against Reid Duke? Dude, he's number 2 in the world.
We already won. We beat them in Modern Super League.
I got to tease Reid about that, by the way, the next weekend in the booth about not having a mountain. Because that's how you guys beat him. Was by Field of Ruining his entire mana base, and he couldn't cast the Bloodbraid Elves in his hand because he didn't have a basic mountain. But guess what? He included one the next time he played a tournament with Jund.
Yeah, he did, and I don't know if playing that basic mountain cost him a game or not, because the basic mountain is just such a bad draw.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if he has it in his deck, actually.
Yeah, I bet you it's gone. Yeah, I don't see it anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't have it.
You basically just shell-shocked him into it.
We definitely scared him, yeah.
Poor Reid.
But when he goes up against us during the next Modern Super League, he'll have the mountain.
Oh, yeah. He knows what's up.
But not for this tournament because no play design. So another Gifts Ungiven, putting 2 more relevant cards in Paul's hand. So
and two cards in the yard. I wonder if it's if he's going to be able to just overload the graveyard and the abilities of Scavenging Ooze to interact, because Paul, he's going to have to go for it here. He is just getting too low. Yeah,
he's definitely going to have to go for it because Reid is threatening a Lightning Bolt. He could definitely win next turn.
Yeah, right. This is a point where if you're Paul, you're looking and saying, is there a way that I die if I pass a turn? And there absolutely is here.
Oh, yeah. I think you just have to go for it here. And it looks like he is. He's getting out his little mana things.
Yeah, we're going to, I guess, make him use basic lands. I kind of like those shinies.
Yeah, they were cool. Yeah. I'm glad he brings his little his customization to the table.
Now, what we're looking at here, by the way, the mountains and the islands are going to represent colored mana that those could produce. So we've got 3 red mana, no blue, and then the magic card back is going to be Storm Count. So this is a way to visually represent something that normally isn't visually represented in live Magic, and it's nice. Thank you, Paul, for doing this. It helps our viewers, but also just helps with the match. It can be really hard to keep track of all the things. You'll see some players just verbalize it. They'll be like 3 red, 1 blue, storm count 4. Okay, minus down to 2. It just gets very hard to track in your head. And so using some type of visual representation is really great. And I think it should just be the way that you do it.
Yep, I've never played Storm myself in a tournament, but I played against it tons of times. And usually my opponents would just verbalize what they were doing, but I would just keep track on paper every time. Every time they played a spell, I would mark it on the paper. I would always keep track of their mana while they weren't. So it looks like we have 2 Pyretic Rituals and then a Noxious Revival, which I'm sure Reid will be responding to here. Not really sure what he Noxious Revivaled. Oh, so there was a Past in Flames.
Mm-hmm.
I just missed it going there. Like, he must have put it in the graveyard off of the second Gifts Ungiven.
Yeah. And Reid decides that that is, of course, the card that he's going to be targeting. Storm counts up to 4 now. And we'll see if Paul Muller can get through this.
He would need 2 Grape Shots. Just 1 for 7, 1 for 8.
Oh, there's Past in Flames on the stack.
Okay, so
now Reid is going to
has one more chance here.
Yeah, so this is interesting because Reid, with 1 mana available, will be able to snipe one of these cards with the Scavenging Ooze.
So there's 2 copies of Manamorphose. If there was only 1, I would just expect him to get the Manamorphose.
But the second makes it
yeah,
less
the second makes it, yeah, exactly. Like, getting 1 doesn't really do anything when you have a second one there anyway. And he also has loads of rituals to play.
Is there another copy of Manamorphose?
Yeah, I think there is.
In the middle there, huh?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Yeah, so there's really not a whole lot to be done here from Reid Duke's perspective. So he says, okay, you're doing it. And now this is where things get completely out of hand because we get to see Paul Muller just go right up the chain again. And the play pattern that you see here, Melissa, is they cast Past in Flames and then they do all the rituals. That's going to add a ton of mana and a ton of storm count, effectively drawing them all of those cards. And then what you'll see is those Manamorphoses will turn this red mana into blue, and then they're going to look for their win conditions with the cantrips that are left in there, like the Sleight of Hands. And, I mean, they get to see 8, 10 cards here. It's hard to miss.
Yeah, there's a very, very low chance of fizzling out here with all the card draw in the graveyard.
Of course, Reid, once Past in Flames goes in the graveyard, Paul Muller has priority, will not have a chance. Reid will not have a chance to exile it before he casts Past in Flames. That's why Reid just had to sit there and watch all of this.
But what if he doesn't find Grape Shot? I can't tell if he has it, but he only has 1 blue mana left. He does have Manamorphose, though, so he has another shot.
Mm-hmm.
And more rituals.
He has another shot at the shot.
He has another shot at the shot, yep.
Yeah. You got to feel like he's a favorite to find it, but he's not guaranteed. And, Reid doesn't have anything else to do here, but he can just sit here and say maybe he'll make a mistake or maybe he'll miss. It does happen occasionally, though. At this point, it is quite a low likelihood.
Also, I find the Storm deck just hard to play. And it's a really high-pressure tournament. You're on camera. There's so many people watching you.
Do you think Reid's just like straight mean mugging him, too?
Yeah,
just staring him
definitely.
down like, hey, don't screw this up.
Yep. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I would, too. I'd be like, wow, I wouldn't want to make a mistake on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be embarrassing if all your friends watching right now saw you make a mistake on camera, Paul? That's what I'd be saying to him.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, just talking him into the ground.
I have played against John Finkel at a Pro Tour while he was
God.
on Storm, and my only out was just to stare at him and hope he missed.
Trying to intimidate.
And he definitely didn't. He just won.
Yeah.
I was playing Boggles, and the matchup was terrible. It was pretty much like, do I have a ley line?
A little goldfish action.
And even if I had a ley line, they usually play Echoing Truth anyway, so just had no way to beat Storm with that deck.
So you tried to intimidate him, though?
I tried to, yep.
Yeah.
It only worked once, but not during that match. It was a different match that we played.
By the way, here's Baral, Chief of Compliance, and this is where it helps accelerate Paul Muller.
Yeah, so...
Gives him even perhaps a little bit more.
So he only has 1 blue mana left, but I believe he hasn't played a land. Oh, okay, so he actually has more mana than I thought. Now it's very unlikely for him to fizzle here because he can just cast the Gifts Ungiven and just find what he needs.
Good news for Paul is that he seems to be cruising through these steps no problem. He's clearly experienced with the Storm deck. And is now setting himself up again to find his win condition.
So he probably has to find another Past in Flames because Reid is not going to give him Grape Shot. So let's see what we have. A Manamorphose, a Ritual, a Grape Shot, and a card that I can't see. Oh, more rituals. Okay, sure. So Reid obviously giving him the rituals because the grape shot kills him. So what I think is going to happen here is he's going to just, build up a gigantic storm count, cast his other copy of Past in Flames. In response, Reid will exile the grape shot.
And then it's on Paul to have another, or does he have a Noxious Revival?
He needs another grape shot, but I can't tell what he has.
He does have 3 copies in his main deck, so things looking very good for Paul Muller here. Reid kind of in that mode where when you're playing against the Storm deck and you're a little low on interaction, Reid does have green mana now available for a Scavenging Ooze activation, which he's going to do. At that point,
but
he just has
the
to
Noxious Revival, I believe, has flashback, so he can just, in response, Noxious Revival and get the grape shot back on top anyway, and then just cast
he just needs
Metamorphose.
He needs any card draw,
Yep.
Reid going through the motions, but as you said, Metamorphose goes on the stack, and now we've seen plenty of Storm count for Paul Muller, who patiently and persistently worked his way through his combo, going off realistically the last turn that he had. Now, he wasn't necessarily dead on board, but boy, would it have been risky for him to try to take another turn, so he chose the perfect window of opportunity, and boy, worked out for him. Great job, Paul. He beats Reid Duke in the first game.
And Reid even drew really well that game. He drew a discard spell. He had a really fast clock. He had the Scavenging Ooze to disrupt the graveyard.
Yeah.
But still died.
So fantastic work for Paul Muller, but he's not done yet. He's going to have to win one of the next 2 games in order to knock off the number 2 in the world, Reid Duke.
So looking at the sideboard, it looks like Reid has some graveyard removal like Nile Spellbomb and Grafdigger's Cage, another copy of Thoughtseize. Maybe he would also bring in Collective Brutality. It's not a very efficient discard spell, but it might be relevant, like gaining 2 life might even be relevant. Grafdigger's Cage, of course, shuts down Past in Flames.
Yeah, that is a nice 1-mana answer. Can't cast cards in graveyards.
Or libraries. When do you think that comes up? Panglacial Worm?
I can't think of any possible. That's never happened as far as I'm concerned.
Wait, like, you've never had a Grafdigger's Cage that stopped a Panglacial Worm from coming into play?
I'm really glad that JVL brought up Panglacial Worm, because I have no idea what that does.
Well, I just said a card. You just had no idea what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
man, you just brickwalled me.
No.
I'm like, where are we going with this? While you're searching your library, you may... What the... And it's randomly a 9/5?
Well, it's 7 mana. You have to cast the card. You can't just play Rampant Growth and find it from your library.
No, I get it. That is an extremely strange time.
Yeah, if you just happen to have
spell.
9, what was it? It was 9 mana or 7. If you just happen to have a million mana lying around and you just like crack a fetch land, you can just play this card from your library.
But you can't use the mana from the fetch land to cast it, right?
No.
You only while you're searching?
Yeah, only while you're searching your library.
Man. I gotta feel like there's some deck there, right? Like,
people tried playing it in Cold Snap. I don't think they were successful. I don't think it ever did anything.
That's the set it's from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Panglacial, cold snap.
I think I saw one of those outside of the window from my airplane last night in Minnesota.
Actually, I think there were some in Minneapolis. They had that blizzard in April.
They did. Slowed me down a little coming here, but nevertheless, we made it.
So looking at Paul's sideboard. Oh, he has a really sweet sideboard card, actually. Pieces of the Puzzle.
Oh, that is a good grind card,
it's really good against hand disruption because it just puts you ahead 2 cards.
Mm-hmm. A little slow for the main deck.
Yeah, it's super slow, but like the Jund deck is usually slow anyway. Another option, if he's really worried about graveyard removal and hand disruption, is Pyromancer's Ascension.
Okay.
So it's just when you play a spell that has the same name as a card in the graveyard, you get a counter on it, and then when you have 2 counters on it, all your cards are just doubled. You cast them twice.
Yeah, that's a card that used to be the default way to play Storm.
Yep.
That was a key piece of the main deck puzzle Though it's gone away in favor of Gifts Ungiven and the creatures that make your spells cheaper.
It's not so good against Nile's Spellbomb, but it's good against Grafdigger's Cage. Reid has 1 copy of each.
Paul's taking a mulligan here, Melissa. What's your take on how well or poorly Storm mulligans?
It really depends on how much hand disruption Reid has. If he only has 1 piece of hand disruption, a mulligan to 6 is usually fine because there's a lot of ways to gain cards if he does bring in pieces of the puzzle.
Okay.
He has a lot of ways to filter his draws, but if Reid just goes Inquisition into Thoughtseize and also has a Tarmogoyf, also has like a clock of some kind, it can be really difficult.
Yeah, Reid should have, on average, a hand disruption spell, but the second one's not guaranteed. Whoop. Yeah, there we go. I was going to say, Paul, easy, buddy. Let's just go to 6 for now.
It's so funny how the new mulligan rule with Scry just helps so much against hand disruption, but he bottomed it anyway.
I love that rule, by the way.
Great.
Vancouver mulligan.
Vancouver mulligan.
That was your best idea ever, Melissa. Great job.
Oh,
R&D.
my idea, of course.
Well, you're an R&D. I figure you did everything.
We did play test that mulligan rule a lot before implementing it, and we did all like it a lot.
By the way, you also, of course, get blamed for anything I don't like.
So I know.
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure if I would have printed Panglacial Worm, for example.
Oh, yeah, that was all my fault.
Yeah. I mean, you work in R&D. I
like,
know how it works.
Panglacial Worm is a rules nightmare. I'm pretty sure our rules manager just hates it.
All right, so we do see hand disruption. Thankfully, Paul did get to keep that 6, but let's take a look at what he's got. It looks like it's going to be Serum Visions taken away by Reid.
So 2 interesting cards that were in his hand. Lightning Bolt and Engineered Explosives.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul decided to just go the more controlling route and just kind of deal with Reid's stuff. Because usually, like, Reid will win if he resolves 1 threat. And Engineered Explosives or Bolt, like, if you just kill the 1 threat, like, it might take too long for Reid to find another one. And that'll just give Paul tons of time to set up. But, like, with this mulligan, he kept a 1-land hand with a card filtering spell, and Reid had the turn 1 hand disruption. And now Paul just has nothing. That card was so important for him.
Right, and you mentioned the hand disruption into pressure, and that is what Reid has here. Right now, it's not huge. It's just a 2/3 Tarmogoyf, but that could change very quickly. And here we go.
Oh, and it will.
1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, right into Liliana of the Veil, plus this. And where the clock is really going to be rolling now. There's an instant, in fact, from both players put in the yard. So now it's 3 damage from the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, Paul needs to find a land, like, immediately.
Yeah, he didn't. He found a ritual, and we may be looking at game 2 swiftly heading in Reid Duke's direction because Paul Muller, while he had a really nice and well-managed game 1 to go off at just the right time and through a few disruptive elements, this missed land drop from him, you mentioned it a second ago, Melissa, devastating having that Serum Visions taken away from him.
Yeah, that's why he kept the hand.
Right.
I don't think you can keep a 1-land hand without a card like that.
Pass in Flames doesn't look castable this game without a lot of help from some rituals, so he's going to put it in his graveyard anyway. And Liliana now tearing apart the hand of Paul Muller. Not doing a great job given that he still has 5 cards, but we know the reason for that.
Yeah, he would have had to discard to hand size anyway. Yeah. So Liliana is just making it like a little less embarrassing.
Also, Liliana's ultimate looks terrible here.
You're right.
Paul successfully playing around the ultimate from Liliana of the Veil. Oh, no, but there's a scavenging news now from Duke as well. Now, it is of note, he's empty-handed as well. Remember, the Liliana hits both players. So he doesn't have anything else going, but he kind of has everything he needs.
Yeah, even if Paul draws land here, which it looks like he didn't, so they're just on to game 3.
So a really solid draw there from Reid Duke. 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop game, as Paul Muller just couldn't find that second mana source. And so we're going to have to go to game number 3. Is it going to be Paul playing his Storm deck, or are we going to see number 2 in the world right now, Reid Duke?
Well, if Reid Duke has the perfect Reid Duke Jund curve, then I would imagine that Reid will win. It's not every Jund player can have the Reid Duke Jund curve. Paul looks like he's having a good time, though.
Yeah, he's chatting up Reid a little bit. They're having a joke. I mean, Paul, I think, realized there was nothing he could do there anyway.
He kept a fine hand.
Yeah, you're not
You
chipping
can't mulligan that
hand
hand. He bottomed his top card, which means it obviously wasn't a land. What if it was a sleight of hand, though? Do you keep that? I think you do.
Keep it on top?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah, it gives you a little bit of redundancy. I mean, if I'm sitting in Paul's seat, I'm looking at my opening hand and assuming that one card will be taken away from it.
Yeah, you have to assume that, right?
Yeah.
You have to assume they have the Inquisition or Thoughtseize.
That's right. Now, unfortunately for Paul, he had mulliganed to 6 there, and he didn't have the luxury of saying, well, if he takes away my Serum Visions, maybe I'll just mulligan into something better. You know, you start getting into the 5-card range, and raw resources takes over, and you just have to kind of run with it.
Yep, it was definitely correct to keep that.
Mm-hmm. Curious to see if Reid makes any adjustments. You mentioned one of the cards that was kind of interesting in Paul's hand that we did get to see was Lightning Bolt. He brought that in, and then there was also the addition of Engineered Explosives, 2 cards that Reid may be considering.
Yeah, so one thing that's interesting about Lightning Bolt,
wow,
it works really well with
It looks like it was sped up.
Yeah,
that's
you tend to get really
speed.
good at pile shuffles when you play on the Pro Tour, I found.
I mean, I don't even do it.
You don't pile shuffle?
No, I'm probably really slow at it.
I pile shuffle to make sure I have 60 cards.
I can't count that high, so I just leave it.
Yeah, not everyone can, I understand. All right, so Lightning Bolt works really well with Pyromancer's Ascension because it means you don't need as high of a storm count because like a Lightning Bolt already does 6, and then you only need to storm for not really that many, but back during the old, I guess it was extended storm decks with Pyromancer's Ascension, that's usually how they won with a combination of Lightning Bolt and Grape Shot. Of course, like Past and Flames didn't exist back then.
All right. On the play this time for Paul Muller, he's going to start things off with Sleight of Hand. And let's see if he can hit a few land drops here. I'd like to see what he can do with the Storm deck. But I want to see a good draw from Reid. I kind of want to see both of these decks just do their thing. Looks like no turn one play here from Duke.
No turn one thing.
Yeah.
I did see Tarmogoyf, so he will have a clock, but not having Disruption. Let's see how relevant that is for this game.
Yeah, sometimes you see this from the Jund deck. Its mana isn't spectacular, and a Raging Ravine is going to be the first play. We could see Reid, though, do something like play a Tarmogoyf this turn and then untap and play a Liliana, or maybe even like 2 disruption spells if he can find 2 black mana sources in there. And that can power up the Tarmogoyf to have a big hit that next turn. The question is just if Paul can go off before that.
Yeah, looking at Reid's hand, I can't really tell all the cards, but I did see a Treetop Village, which is just a terrible land in combination with Raging Ravine. You really need a lot of black sources. And the Jund mana is very good, but it's so slow.
Yeah, now you see one way to alleviate that is Twilight Mire.
Yeah, that Twilight Mire is a great card here.
Yeah, that gives him access to double black. Now, Reid's going to actually lead off with Dark Confidant here, but Paul's having none of it. One of those 3 lightning bolts out of the sideboard is going to take care of Bob. And what do we see here?
Oh, there's the pieces of the puzzle.
Just like you called it,
Sweet
Melissa.
card.
Yeah, this is a great way to get ahead. And now he's going to chain them together potentially. He could take Desperate Ritual and another pieces of the puzzle. Or he could just go for the Grape Shot if he feels like he has the tools in hand.
Yeah, if he feels like the game is going to go super long, then you just take pieces of the puzzle and something else. I'm not sure it matters totally what else. But if you feel like you're going to win next turn, you just take the Grape Shot and the Ritual.
I really want to see what Reid has this turn. Shields are down. He has free reign. He could cast Liliana of the Veil, which he has in his hand, or maybe some combination of threat plus removal spell.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure.
Hand disruption, I meant to say.
Well, yep, of course. I'm not totally sure Liliana does much. Getting one card, like Paul can very easily win next turn.
And Reid's going to be hyper aware of that, right?
Yep, but
wow.
I'm not really sure what else you can do. You just got to run this Liliana out there and hope that this one card matters.
He's actually going to discard pieces of the puzzle. Tarmogoyf is what hits the bin for Duke. Maybe setting up for a Bloodbraid Elf next turn or something along those lines. But this is a scary moment for Reid because he's just got to hold his breath as Paul has been resolving a lot of spells in the early stages and has yet to be disrupted by Duke. But he's going to breathe a sigh of relief because it's another
pieces of the puzzle.
Lots of pieces. This is an extremely difficult puzzle. And what does he see here? Lots of options.
Yep, can't take the Pyromancer's Ascension, but just take some. Just make your hand big to have stuff for Liliana to discard. Hasn't played a land yet.
No, I wonder if he's going to. He's thinking about it. He is. The Storm deck doesn't actually need that many lands to go off, though. This one does like to get to 4 for Gifts Ungiven.
It can win with 3 off of a Goblin Electromancer or a Baral or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Paul can easily win next turn if Reid doesn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, Reid's going to need to see some hand disruption or sideboard card, something to get in the way, because so far Liliana of the Veil has done okay work, but Paul has pretty comfortably outpaced her by casting pieces of the puzzle not once but twice this game so far. In fact, going so far as to discard one to Liliana.
Right.
That's how much value he's got. And there it is, Inquisition of Kozilek. Let's see what Paul's working with. A pair of Manamorphose. Wow, that is a stacked hand right there.
That's going to be a lot of goblins.
It is indeed. He's got a 2 Manamorphose as well as a Lightning Bolt and a Desperate Ritual and a land. And as you mentioned, he could empty the Cheons here for quite a bit. And if Reid does not have an answer to a wide board, he could just lose to the Goblins.
If he doesn't have Maelstrom Pulse, yeah, absolutely.
Now, Reid is at 20 life. He has yet to take any damage this game thus far. And he does have access to some cards that can block Goblin tokens okay. But if Paul gets to go off, I mean, right now we can see he can go Manamorphose, Desperate Ritual, Lightning Bolt, and then play Empty the Warrants. That's without anything, including his draw step or either of the cards off of Manamorphose. He could very easily produce, 16 goblins next turn or something like that if he kind of hits a couple of cantrips here.
Oh, a Thoughtseize too.
Thoughtseize to follow up for Duke. Wow, now all of a sudden Paul Muller's hand looks a lot worse. It's just going to be a pair of Manamorphose and a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, and with this Liliana in play, it's just going to rip Paul's hand apart turn after turn.
Oh, boy. Reid Duke with the 1-2 punch there. And here we go, Manamorphose on the stack.
So Paul feels like he just has to go for something this turn because that Liliana is just going to take over the game.
She's currently on 5 loyalty. Her ultimate comes at 6.
What if he drew an Empty the Warrens or a Grape Shot or something? I mean, a Grape Shot doesn't really do a whole lot, honestly.
There are 2 copies of Empty the Warrens in Paul Muller's sideboard.
Maybe he'll just double bolt the Liliana. If he has that, I'm not sure he does. He must have drawn a Past in Flames.
He had to have
or Empty the Warrens.
Because why would you cast these rituals otherwise? Oh, maybe gifts? No, it's Past in Flames. Good call, Melissa. And this one may have just fallen apart on Reid Duke. No way to interact with the graveyard currently.
Cast all these rituals. Yeah, he's going to make 1 million goblins.
Yeah.
Is the number actually 1 million? It's pretty close.
He is doing it. Paul Muller has found a way, drawing that Past in Flames off of the Manamorphoses, and now he is in full-on storm mode here. What's his storm count up to? 4, 5, 7. And it's going to be way higher than that before we're done here. All of those cards in the graveyard have flashback, and basically the question is going to be, do you have Maelstrom Pulse?
Right.
Because he's going to actually have enough goblins to kill Reid in one swing here.
One way you can stop a Maelstrom Pulse is with a Lightning Bolt. So Reid will target one of the goblins, and in response to you Lightning Bolt that goblin, and then the spell just gets countered and none of the goblins get destroyed. But for that to happen, Paul will need exactly in his hand land lightning bolt, and it has to be a red land, of course.
Okay, an untapped red mana source and a lightning bolt. I think all of his mana is untapped, so that part's easy, but...
Yeah, so it's pretty unlikely that he has that, but it's also unlikely that Reid has the Maelstrom Pulse because he only plays 2 copies.
Yeah. Also, are we assuming, like, what if he just finds a Grape Shot? Are those gone?
Yeah, we are assuming that he's going to play the Empty the Warrens, but he could also just find a Grape Shot and win with that.
Okay.
There's 1 Grape Shot, so if he has another Grape Shot, that would be enough damage right there.
This is kind of funny. Somebody in chat said, I have no idea what's happening here, but it looks dumb. Yeah, you're right. It's dumb. There's a mechanic in Magic called Storm that cares.
There's a Grape Shot.
There's Grape Shot. Paul Muller takes down the match 2-1 against Jund. A tough start for Reid Duke. Remember, he's just off of his buys here. And boom, Paul Muller says, welcome to Hartford, my friend. And sends him packing with the loss. Paul is 4-0 now to start the tournament. So great stuff there from our feature match area. A rocky start for fan favorite Reid Duke, but Paul Muller says, hey, I can do this too.
So we have to pick a card of the match. And
I know what I would pick.
I know what I would pick. Let's see if
Should we say it at the same time? Okay, 1,
okay.
2, right it. Pass and Flames.
Yeah,
we did it.
You weren't even going to say that.
No, I was. I just forgot the name for a second.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pass and Flames. It was such a great top deck. And both games, it allowed him to just cast enough spells. He played it in a way where he was able to play around Scavenging Ooze with a combination of like Noxious Revival and just the timing of all of his spells.
Yeah, I mean, Pass and Flames for old school players, right? It reminds you of another card, Yawgmoth's Will.
Oh, Yawgmoth's Will.
Right,
of course.
which is a card that, at different times through Magic's history was perhaps the most powerful card in Magic. I mean, it really had this high seat that was completely insane. And Pass and Flames is a more expensive, more conditional version of the card, but it has a key difference. It has flashback.
It has flashback.
You can put it in your graveyard and cast it from there. And boy, Pass and Flames, look, it's not cheap, right? I mean, we're talking about a relatively expensive sorcery here, but boy, when they cast it, they usually win the game, and that's what we saw from Paul. So that's going to get our card of the match. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have Time Walk Magic here from Hartford. Don't go anywhere. that goes along. As far as the matchup goes, Melissa, we've got Hollow One, kind of the deck, the new deck, if you will. I mean, it's been out for a few months now, but relative to Modern, it's new in the hands of Owen Turtenwald. On the other side, Kenan's playing
just Jund, just typical Jund.
And as you can see, this is definitely game number 2.
Yep, Leyline of the Void.
×2.
Which is super brutal against Owen. It turns off his Gurmag Anglers, Flamewake Phoenix, Bloodghast. And one piece of tech that Owen has here that I don't usually see in Hollow One decks is Lingering Souls. So it's a good way to like mitigate the times where you just discard the wrong cards, so the Goblin Lore effects. But Leyline of the Void is kind of a beating against Owen. As you can see, he discarded some Bloodghast. I didn't really get a good look at what else he discarded, but he can't get any value out of the graveyard this game.
That is a key component to the Hollow One deck. It does have the ability to still power out those Hollow Ones early, but boy, the Delve cards lose a lot of value. You have to, straight up hard cast 7 drops and 6 drops. That is very difficult to do, usually far too slow.
So looking at Owen's list, he has no answer to Leyline of the Void.
Yeah, this color pair is traditionally awful at dealing with enchantments in general.
Yep.
And sometimes you'll see, in a card pool as broad as Modern, they'll still find some way to do something, but nothing, huh? Just cold to them.
Also, a lot of decks that choose to play Graveyard Hate that have access to black play Nile Spellbomb and not Leyline of the Void. But it looks like Leyline of the Void is a great addition because since the metagame does have a lot of Hollow One, it's just a stronger card than a card like Nile Spellbomb.
Right.
Which you can easily play around.
Yeah, Nile Spellbomb is the kind of card that you get temporary advantage from, but the Hollow One deck can easily rebuild. A clutch Lightning Bolt there from Owen, though. He did need to kill that Dark Confidant, or else it would get out of hand. And what's going to happen here is this game's going to get pretty fair pretty fast, at least from Owen's side. He just needs to start casting these guys, right?
Yeah, we might see Owen cast Flamewake Phoenix. If he gets to 5 mana, we might see a Hollow One. We'll see.
Always interesting as well to note. Yeah, there's that Flamewake Phoenix that you predicted, Melissa. From Kenan's side, and by the way, bye-bye Phoenix, and it's gone forever as well. It's interesting because you think, well, he's just in super good position here because now Owen's broken stuff is shut down, and the Jund deck can certainly just kill all the creatures that Owen puts out. And that's true to a point. The interesting thing is that Kenan's effectively down 2 cards for the privilege. I mean, he had 2 copies of Leyline of the Void in his opener. That's like going to 5. And so he doesn't have access to a whole lot of tools.
I wouldn't really say it's like going to 5. It's like going to 6. I think the first Leyline is very much worth a card, probably even more.
Okay.
Because if you think about it like this, like Faithless Looting is card disadvantage because you're using a card. Mm-hmm. You're drawing 2 and pitching 2, so you're spending 1 card to do that. So you're already down 1 card. So to mitigate that, you play stuff like Bloodghast and things like Lingering Souls, things to play out of your graveyard, so you can get value out of your Faithless Looting. And like Burning Inquiry, also card disadvantage because you're spending a card and not going up any cards. Mm-hmm. Goblin Lore is not disadvantaged; it's like you just remain the same in cards. But the other spells, you're just going down cards. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting shut down, if your Bloodghasts are getting shut down and your Flamewake Phoenixes and you're not getting any value out of your graveyard, then Kenan will be gaining virtual card advantage with his Leylines.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're clearly worth having, and I'm just saying that if you're sitting in the Jund player's seat, you can't have threats, answers, and Leylines, right? Those are taking the spot of something else. Now, over the course of time, he can find those, but we see Kenan with a handful of answers, but he has no more threats left, so he's just sitting here and watching, just passing the turn back to Owen, who actually has quite a bit of time to build up his mana, and we may see Hollow One just put on the stack here. He's got one in his hand, and he's got a land drop.
Oh, he does have a land. You're right.
Yeah.
We did see him cycle Hollow One last turn, which I don't think I've seen that very often outside of Limited.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. The matchup gets very weird with Leyline of the Void on the table here from Kenan.
So I actually predicted Hollow One to win the entire event.
Is this how you drew it up?
Not exactly.
Tap 5 mana, Hollow One, go.
But and the reason why is because the removal in the format lines up poorly against Hollow One. Like as you can see, Kenan has a Lightning Bolt in hand. The deck also plays Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay. It does play Terminate, which he had. That's great, but generally, usually lists only play 2 Terminates.
This is hilarious.
Yeah. See,
Owen just cast back-to-back 5 mana, a 4/4 and a 3/4 with Swamp Walk. Those are his
right.
last
And
two
sometimes
plays.
that's what you have to do.
But Scavenging Ooze could absolutely get out of hand here. Remember, Owen's creatures are all exiled, but Leyline of the Void does not affect Kenan. And it looks like Owen perhaps has stopped. There we go. He actually said, all right, you're going to exile your Dark Confidant, but I'm going to Lightning Bolt your Scavenging Ooze in response. And Kenan may need to start getting aggressive here, although it looks like he's got a Tarmogoyf to help out.
So Hollow One plays a lot like Living End in that it just kind of spams a bunch of expensive creatures onto the board in kind of an unfair way. But it's a lot stronger than Living End because Living End pretty much only plays from out of the graveyard. And there are so many times where the opponent has graveyard removal or whatever, and the Living End player has to hard cast all of their 7 mana 5/6s and stuff, and hard cast their Street Wraiths. And as you can see here, that's what Owen had to do.
Yeah, I think the Tarmogoyf's a 3/4. I see instant land creature. But remember, the Street Wraith also has Swamp Walk, and Kenan's playing black and has Swamp on the battlefield. And there's a Fatal Push to kill Dark Confidant, and we've somehow just got a race here.
Yep. Does Kenan have any manlands? I don't think so.
Gosh,
that would have been important.
I thought he had a Treetop Village before in his hand, but he hasn't wanted to play it. I thought that's what I saw in
Inquisition,
his hand.
that doesn't do a whole lot. Oh, how funny that the big game hunter can't kill the Tarmogoyf right now. Oh, now it could because
there's
of the sorcery. Oh, if he
don't want to make
you
him discard
don't want
that one.
Yeah, it has madness, so you don't want to take away the big game hunter. But now that the sorcery is in the graveyard, I believe it is in range to die to the big game hunter.
Yeah. By the way, it was a Twilight Mire in hand for Kenan, not a Treetop Village, so that makes more sense on why he didn't want to play it.
Okay, and
wow,
hard casting 5-drops won Owen game 2.
So Owen actually won that game with that big game hunter. Kenan didn't find what he needed, and somehow he actually won the game, putting us into game number 3. And there it is.
Yep, there's the ley line again. And a Grafdigger's Cage, just all the graveyard hate.
Again, the key, though, here is that the Jund deck can't have all of the tools at once. And look at this. He finds another Leyline of the Void.
Yeah, yep. That second ley line is looking pretty bad.
Yeah, but Dark Confidant looks fantastic. If it gets to survive, that's the kind of thing that can recoup that card advantage and close the door on this match right quick.
Yeah, and as we saw, Owen did bring in removal against Kenan's deck. He had Fatal Push.
And Lightning Bolt, yeah. Let's see if he's got one here. He needs one or the other to kill Dark Confidant, realistically. If he lets that Dark Confidant go unchecked, that is one way that Owen can fall woefully behind and will not win the type of game that we saw him win in game number 2. He'll simply be outcarded.
Looks like he has a lot of options. I see Goblin Lore and Faithless Looting.
Faithless Looting is going to kick things off.
But does he have the Fatal Push?
Or the Lightning Bolt.
Right.
Either one would do just fine, thank you.
If he didn't have either of them and tried to Faithless Looting for one, I wonder if that is better or worse than just casting a Goblin Lore. Oh, just get that guy out there. That is a way to mitigate the card disadvantage that Faithless Looting gives you by just discarding a Madness card.
Sure. Now, it didn't actually have a target this time.
But it's still a 1-mana 1/1, which is not great in Modern. But it still ate a Lightning Bolt.
You really got yourself in a corner there.
It did its job.
Wow. Wow. Respect for the big game.
Yeah. I guess Kenan really wants to race.
Yeah. He's getting in there for 2.
Oh, another
It's hard to
card
blame him, too.
in Kenan's hand, actually, that he sideboarded in. Anger of the Gods.
Wow, Kenan.
It doesn't kill a whole lot, though. I'm kind of surprised to see that. It kills the Flamewake Phoenix.
Sure. It kills Bloodghast.
Yeah, it kills Bloodghast, yep.
I'm just curious, what happened in Kenan's previous life that made him have multiple ley lines of the void?
He came to this tournament and he said, I am not losing to Hollow One. I am not losing to Dredge.
No, he is clearly prepared for these matchups. And we see Goblin Lore go on the stack here for Turtenwald, deciding which of these cards is going to go away. It looks like it's an Angler.
Yep.
Fine. Burning Ink.
All those cards are great to discard. Gurmag Angler is a 7-mana card this game, which is, I don't think, is ever castable.
Yeah, he never.
Unless something went horribly wrong.
Right, he didn't even get to that point last game. We did see him hard cast 2 5-mana spells, a Hollow One and a Street Wraith, but he never actually got up to 7 mana. Cycling the Street Wraith.
Where are the Hollow Ones at?
Seriously. Still, the pressure very much on Turtenwald to find an answer for Dark Confidant, because left unchecked, it will absolutely run away with this game.
Yep,
right now, it's chipping in for 2 damage and providing a stream of card advantage for Kenan, so that's going to be job number 1.
Oh, another Faithless Looting.
So that means he does not have a Bolt here.
And still no Hollow One. He finally found the Fatal Push, though.
But
he can't cast it this turn.
Right? Yeah, so
Kenan's going to get yet another card. Whoa, Bolt his face.
Is that upstairs?
Bolt the face, wow.
Kenan is aggro.
Yeah. He doesn't have all the time in the world.
He says, I've had enough losing to this Hollow
One
deck.
Yeah.
I'm packing the sideboard. I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, if you want to beat it, you can.
And now how is Turtenwald supposed to get out of this mess? We would assume that part of the equation would be to use Fatal Push to kill Dark Confidant.
Yeah, I think Owen actually has a very easy way to get out of this mess. I didn't really expect that one. What I expected was Fatal Push. All right, he did have the Fatal Push.
Yeah.
But Fatal Push, play out your lands, and then hard cast your Street Wraith and win with that.
Kind of interesting. Kenan actually took 2 damage from the Flamewake Phoenix and decided to kill it on end step, deciding to keep Fatal Push in hand. Let's see.
No. Actually, he needed to turn on Revolt.
He did not have Revolt.
Right,
you are correct. Yeah, but Owen Turtenwald kindly gave it to him by killing his Dark Confidant.
Yep, that was very nice of him.
I think that Kenan's probably a little relieved, right? I mean, killing that Flamewake Phoenix, that is a clock.
Yeah.
Kenan sort of has signed up for the game plan of basically, well, there goes
one.
Oh,
there's the Hollow
One. Basically killing every single thing that Owen Turtenwald puts out. And that, incidentally, is how he lost game number 2, is that he simply couldn't kill every threat that Owen put out. And once again, we see Kenan with no source of card advantage and no pressure whatsoever. Is Owen actually scrapping his way back in this game?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I was saying about how poorly the removal lines up against the creatures of Hollow One. He has all this 3 damage removal. Of course, Lightning Bolt is great against Bloodghast when there's a ley line in play, but
interesting choice there for Kenan. He's
going for Bolt instead of Anger of the Gods. Mm-hmm. That is an Anger of the Gods, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I would have used Anger of the Gods because
too.
It's a better use of mana, and Bolt can go to the face, and that could be relevant this game.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that Kenan's choice was, I'm going to take 1 hit from Bloodghast and get a little greedy here and hope that you play something else that dies to Anger of the Gods. I was surprised to see him use the Bolt after passing. Hey, Big Game Hunter.
It's a threat, kind of.
Yeah, threat-ish. And now there's a real threat,
Yeah,
though.
So what if he played Anger last turn and kept the Bolt? Then he could have just bolted Owen, right?
Yes. As it stands, the Lightning Bolt.
Oh, it didn't matter anyway. He had a Bolt.
No, but still, I like your line better, Melissa. We're going to see Big Game Hunter go all the way? It's unlikely.
It's pretty unlikely. It's a lot of turns. Looks like
maybe
Kenan is trying to get value off of
I don't blame him here. It's
Anger of the Gods.
1 per turn. I think it's worth it to be a little greedy
I
here.
think so, too. I would wait, too. All right, Owen just needs one more land, and then Street Wraith and Hollow One are going to come down.
Oh, yeah, the big hitters, you know, the 5-mana 4/4
That's
with
what you
no
have
abilities.
to do. Then we got a Goblin Lore.
So he's going to try to find the land with Goblin Lore and really hope that he doesn't discard those threats.
Yeah, I know, right?
Be pretty awkward.
He has not a good chance of discarding them. He was holding some lightning bolts and stuff. So
let's see if he hits the Street Wraith or the Hollow One. Oh no! One of the Hollow Ones went away.
One.
Yeah, and a Flamewake Phoenix was in there too.
Oh no!
Owen did, I believe, hit a land here though. No, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, he didn't. Tarmogoyf off the top.
Right,
for
that's a
Kenan
big guy.
Diab. Yeah.
Wait, is it big? It's a 4. No, it's a 3. There's no sorcery.
Yeah, instance creatures and lands. Still, that does fine job here.
It can be double bolted.
True.
Or it could be Fatal Push.
Even easier.
Even better.
Speaking of double pulled, if Owen has that, tick-tock, down to 10.
Nice, the Lingering Souls.
So he just played Lingering Souls, of course gets exiled, but he does get the Spirits, and there's Anger of the Gods.
And now the Anger is doing something. So
yeah, his patience actually showed up. Wow, and another Tarmogoyf too.
So maybe it does make sense, because if Owen showed Lingering Souls in game 1, then Kenan is like, all right, no, I need to play a slow game, and I need to use this on Lingering Souls because my deck is slow and this card will kill me.
And as I said, he really has committed to the game plan of killing every single threat that Owen Turtenwald puts on the battlefield. And if that's the case, Lingering Souls is a problem.
So now Kenan has left in hand. I think I saw an Abrupt Decay and maybe a Bolt, but I don't really remember. He's not showing his hand anymore.
We're going to see another copy of Lingering Souls for Turtenwald, who is trying to hit with them twice and then go for the double Bolt. But I don't think he wins that race as it sits, as the Tarmogoyf's a little too big.
Yeah, he can go Block Bolt, though.
Block Bolt?
Yeah, because it's a 3/4, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, to kill the Goyf, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, of course. I was actually talking about bolts upstairs.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's got 6 damage in his hand, but this makes so much more sense. Of course, he doesn't have that as an option. The Tarmogoyf is now 4/5.
Whoa.
Oh, sick tech from Kenan. He's going to use Abrupt Decay on his own Grafdigger's Cage to get an artifact in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that
nice
the Tarmogoyf
play.
should be a 5/6 and only taking 5 damage. Bolt plus 2 Spirits. Pretty cool. Now,
I think Owen has another Bolt anyway, though.
as it turns out. But still, that's a sick little play there from Kenan. He certainly doesn't need the Grafdigger's Cage, given that he has Leyline of the Void since turn 0. Next level.
Yeah, right. The Goyf is going to live, but there is another Bolt anyway.
Yeah, now as it turned out, but still, that was a sweet play. Now, was that perhaps, though, a misstep from Kenan? No, Owen forced him into that situation.
Yeah, Owen made a really good play, too. He used the Bolt before damage.
That's right.
And that put him in the situation where now his spirits are alive.
As the lightning bolts together were enough on their own to kill Tarmogoyf, so it wasn't alive to do damage to the spirits, but another Tarmogoyf for Kenan that he had drawn last turn is a major problem, and there's Hollow One being hard cast.
Hollow One is not doing a whole lot, though. So Owen needs to chump block with a spirit. Oh, a blood. The Bloodghast might be relevant, actually.
It was Dark Confidant off the top of the library for Kenan. Also still has that ley line of Void in his hand from way early in the game. Kenan says, I'm doing it. I'm running out my Dark Confidant.
Yeah, the Dark Confidant might be blocking the Bloodghast this game.
What are you talking about? Just take it.
I don't know. I think Kenan's dying.
It's only 7 damage. It's only 6.
I don't know about this.
you don't want to flip the coin on the on the Dark Confidant.
Yeah, I think you have to block here. So you have to block here, and then you're still in rough shape because the chump block on the spirit on the Tarmogoyf puts Owen still on a 2-turn clock.
Melissa, you clearly don't understand greatness or how much it costs.
I mean, you do have a point there.
All right, looks like we might see that play pattern repeated here, by the way.
Yeah, so, chumping hollow 1 again. You chump hollow 1, then Owen is on a turn 2 clock.
Yeah.
And wins, and Kenan is winning the race.
Yeah, Owen does remind
Lingering
him.
Souls.
Kenan says, Owen says,
Nope.
I have a play, sir. It is not your turn, and a devastating one at that. Another copy of Lingering Souls, even only half strength, does great work here, though this gets a little interesting, doesn't it? Now all of a sudden the Tarmogoyf's big enough to block hollow 1, so maybe just the Lingering Souls are going to get in?
Well, if he attacks with everything, he takes 4 down to 3.
Yes, that's interesting. The hollow
Then
one
he's still
gets
on a turn
eaten.
2 clock. Oh, he drew another thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's a nice draw.
Okay,
So Owen
this
playing
is
it safe
this
here.
is not good.
And that's going to do it. Owen Turtenwald scraps his way through. Heavily sideboarded game from Kenan Diab and ends up winning the match 2-1. That was a fun one to watch. Not how things normally play out.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how Owen was able to just like overcome that ley line of the void really well.
Yeah, and make adjustments to his game plan as he went. That's going to do it, though, for our coverage here in round number 4. We're going to be back with more right after these messages.